Troy, good to have you on board, and talkSPORT are delighted to have you on board. So Palace against Burnley, Oliver Glasner's first game in charge. How do you see it?
I think Palace are in a real tough place at the moment. I think when you've recruited, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but as poorly as they have done over the last few years, when Eze and Elise are out, their team is so much different. And I know obviously everyone loses one or two players, your team will differ, but if you're going to recruit over a time period for a certain style of football and then change midway through the season, granted, unfortunately for Roy, and we wish him all the best. But I think they're in a situation now where they're going to be caught between two styles of football, trying to prepare for next year while winning games. But I think Burnley should be looking at this game, going, right, this is the one we could really get after them, because Burnley are going to play the way Burnley play. Do I think it's been conducive to them winning? Probably not. But they're going to do their style and they're going to go out on their sword. And if they can stay up this season, they'll only get better. So, Vinny's doing a great job there in what he's done over the last 18 months. But I fancy Burnley to win 2-1.
Okay, I think you took the scoreline, but the other way, Simon. Am I right?
I didn't pick a score.
Oh, I did. No, it was me, not you. I took Palace to win it 2-1, but what do I know? We shall see. Troy, I mentioned earlier on, Brighton will take on Everton, probably like everybody else probably, although Simon's continued to dampen me down on this one. I would have hoped and thought that Everton would have known their fate regards their appeal with their 10-point deduction, but they don't. Does that play in the mind of the Everton players going into this game at Brighton?
It shouldn't, because either way, you've still got to win the game. So the simplistic beauty of it is go out and do your job. So if it does hold, you're still in a position where you're in the Premier League next year. So you've got to be working off the fact of worst case scenario. I believe that, right, this is where we are and this is what we've got to do. I think Dyche did a really good job of trying to protect his players in this time, and which is what he should do. And based on what my learning is, I probably should have done that myself. But that's another story for another day. But we have to get to this point now where we have to look at the Everton players. They are a very good team. Why are we keep seeing you in this situation? I know there's been a lot of off-field stuff, a lot of nonsense, but as players, all you can deliver on is your best version of yourself. And I think Calvin's got to step up, do a bit more. Calvert-Lewin's got to do a bit more. I think Dukes has got to keep doing what he's doing, and I think the wide boys have got to step up with some more goals. And they brought in like Dan Juma, and he's not really delivered. So I'd like to see him get a bit more game time and really start attacking teams. I know Dyche plays a certain style of football, but they have players that can go and take it to teams on their counter attack. So it'll be a really interesting game that will, I think, over the weekend.
I think. Yeah, Troy, agree with a lot of that. But I think we were talking earlier on and talking about, concentrating on what's ahead of you. Don't let the points situation worry you. But I think it's the onset of any future sanctions, which is probably what's in their mind. But as I say, when there's a game in front of you, you just got to go and win it. And don't worry about that. And it seems at the moment they're making it something to be concerned about.
The best version of themselves, as Troy said. Everton played Brighton. Brighton drew Roma this morning in the Europa League last 16. I watched Roma last night. They get up to everything to win a game. They won the game on merit. They won the penalty shootout. What have Brighton got to do in this one? Because this is a sizable tall order against Roma, isn't it?
I want to be a little bit rude here. I don't think it is. I think if you're talking about what Roma was and the club and as an entity and all the history around it, yes, absolutely. I think Brighton are on a better footing currently than what Roma are. They've just had to change, the manager change. They're trying to get up to what it was. Obviously, very good players there, and they're going to do the Italian way of being very organised, very tactically astute. But I think Brighton are a proper outfit. They have been for years. They've been building for these moments, so I don't feel like these moments are going to be too big for them. I feel like this is what they were ready for. This is what they've gone and bought. And yes, they've lost players in the window in summer, but they've recruited really well, and they're never fazed by what's coming. So Brighton are going to go. They're going to play, and obviously my young protege in João Pedro is going to score for me and make me look really good. So I fancy Brighton to do the job and just have a little bit too much for.
Of course, you were with him at Watford, right?
Yeah, I was with everyone at Watford. I had 400 managers at one point, so we'll be happy with it.
I'd love to think you're right. I think it's tough, Simon, because Roma, we know, when Mourinho was there, they were up to everything,
I think,
but they will do the same.
Lack of experience, maybe?
I think
European experience?
Yeah, I think the balance is if they come away from the game in Rome intact or moderately intact, I think they'll give Roma a proper game at the Amex. So I'm kind of half with Troy. I think the inexperience in Europe might play a hand in the outcome, but I don't think Roma are great shakes. I mean, they're great shakes in our mind because A, they're a sizable club, B, they've had Mourinho there recently. But they're not, they're 5th, 6th in the Italian league every year. And Brighton are knocking around that position in the Premier League, which is the more competitive league, the Premier League or the Serie A.
Brighton will need to keep their heads, or Troy, because there are one or two players in there that will really be in the front foot, try to provoke. We'll see what happens there. In the Championship, Ipswich against Birmingham. You, like everybody else, you'd be sad to hear the news about Tony Mowbray having to take time out, 6 to 8 weeks, possibly even more, from his duties at Birmingham City.
Yeah, I'd actually like for just purely for his health, I'd like them to shut him down for the season personally and let him rest and recuperate. I know Tony, as well as you guys do, he's not going to want to do that. He'll want to be back in 6 days. But I think if you're looking at the condition of where Birmingham are, what they're trying to do, they've still got experience in Mark Vidas there. They've still got Ashley Cole in there helping. So they've got enough of an understanding to deal with the situation currently at hand. But how good have Ipswich been, by the way? I think they're proper outfit, proper outfit. The players that they've brought in, the management team, the way it's all constructed, I've been really impressed. I've saw them 5 or 6 times live this year. So I think it'll be a tough game for Birmingham. My standpoint on Birmingham currently is get safe, figure out where you actually want to go and how you're going to do it, and prep and do it properly moving forward. Obviously it's easy hindsight to look back at Wayne and go, that wasn't going to work. But I think, well, listen to Simon a few times. I think he knew it wasn't going to work. People in football thought, right, that's a weird change, a weird time, and tried to then not give him the window. I think they'll learn from that mistake. But for the City, obviously I'm from here and I'm a fan still. It's huge what they've done in this short amount of time, the ownership. So I think next season there'll be a real handful, especially with the fair play being in our way now. We can actually spend some money for once.
Yeah. Troy, just to finish on your brief experience as manager at Forest Green. I noticed you've said on a few occasions since, well, I have learned a lot since then. Would it be your aim further down the line? Obviously, you're going to be with us in talkSPORT. We're thrilled at that. But your aim is longer term to get back into management, I presume.
Absolutely. And I've been very quiet. I saw a lot of things being said, and you have to keep your mouth shut because there's legal things still happening in the background. But fundamentally, obviously, you're thrust into a position that I wasn't ready for, and it wasn't actually in the timeline to do. So a 3-week period is a baptism of fire, and we are fundamentally in a place where you go, okay, live, learn, and move on. Did I make mistakes? Absolutely, of course I did. But if you're going to sit here and be like, oh, it wasn't me, and Forest Green's this and Forest Green's that, then I'm never going to be able to grow. So I know what I did wrong. It was probably a year too early for me anyway, in hindsight. But it was an opportunity. You never know when these opportunities are going to present themselves. So I thought, why not dip my toe in, see what happens, gave it everything. And I think we made some good strides behind the scenes. But as you know, it's all about winning games, isn't it? So we are where we are, and I wish them well. I think Steve's in there now. I think they've won 1 since Steve's been in. They're doing all right, but we know what we did from a foundational setting. So yeah, moving forward, we will be working really hard to make sure that we're still learning and we're growing. And I'm still doing my day visits and stuff. I'm in with Arsenal in next week, so I'm always learning, always trying to be better. And I've got Simon in my background, so he'll tell me what I should and shouldn't do anyway.
Exactly. He'll keep a close eye on it, on what you do, Troy. Of course he will.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.